Welcome to Synced on Air. I'm your host, Angelique Robb. We are brought to you courtesy of Turf's Up Radio. And today I have a special guest with me, Fabian Sanin from Monarch Landscape Companies. He is the Regional Project Manager for Sustainability. And he's also contributing some articles for our publication soon. Thanks, Fabian, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sure, sure. Well, we only met not too long ago, and you told me a lot of your background, but let's go into that a bit more for the audience and, see, what path your career has taken to get you to this point at Monarch. So where have you been before and what have you done?
Oh, well, let's see here. Well, I grew up in New York City, which is an interesting place to grow up due to so much concrete around you, um, and not too much landscape. But one thing that I did always notice while growing up in New York City was the green spaces around New York City, especially Central Park. That's always been a place that my parents used to take me when I was little growing up, and as I kept going to these green spaces and parks in the city, a big city like that, it just made me realize how much joy that nature brought me, and as well as I kind of observed how much joy it made everyone have being there and kind of being part of the environment, being connected to nature, just that relaxed atmosphere that I see, that I saw people kind of enjoying at the time. So that kind of sparked an interest for me to see what that was more about, I guess, as I continued to grow up. And I guess my background is, I kind of went a little bit into the fine art and visual art scene for a while, but I always kind of was gravitated to nature and kept on kind of researching on the side about about plants and how that works and how I can kind of create some art with the plants and etc. But then I started kind of diving a little deeper into, well, what did this nature do to people, and how can I be part of that, and how can I kind of contribute to evolving this connection that people have with nature. So kind of started studying some courses at Rutgers, did a couple of things on Cornell and Cornell Extension, and started just really kind of absorbing what that's all about. And then kind of worked my way through landscape companies in a way, and started seeing how to contribute to the clients, properties and what they wanted. So I've kind of worked from the mom and pop kind of organic nursery and companies um, to estate type of landscapes to commercial landscapes.
And is
Um,
all that in the New York City area or
yeah,
what
most of it was
areas?
New York City area, but also I worked for a company called Valley Crest in Florida at the time, and then I made my way up to the West Coast um, and started working also for different companies here in the Seattle area. Um, but yeah, that kind of all through that whole process, I kind of continued educating myself, attending courses and classes, connecting with other horticulturalists and folks that were really involved and wanting to learn more about what landscapes do for people, um, and that kind of made my pathway to being a horticulturalist for Amazon for the global real estate and facilities team, which was my previous role um, prior to coming to Monarch.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what was your role at Amazon then?
My role was I was a horticulturalist and program manager. focusing on, I was part of an innovation lab and sustainability and environmental experiences. So kind of bringing in what nature and what it does for people, but concentrated on some urban environments as well. So I was part of the design build of the Seattle campus, and as well as HQ2 and some global sites as well. And it was always trying to figure out ways to continue improving as we design and build these environments that are buildings and the surrounding areas. What was that connection needed for the community in the surrounding area? And how could Amazon bring forth nature in these communities that possibly didn't have as much of it or
Mm,
can enhance it more? Because it's not just about the building itself and the employees, but when you're in an urban environment, it's touching just a community, just a whole amount of people that walk through a city or an area that has this type of landscape. So that was a very fun time for me to learn, improve, um, sustain, and educate the community and employees on how nature is important in landscapes and how we continue to evolve with that.
and so it sounds like you were more on the client end um, at Amazon. Did you have landscape companies that were coming in and doing the work that you developed, or were you guys doing it in-house?
Yeah, so in Amazon, yeah, I was on the client side, but I was also previous to that, I was on the vendor side.
Okay.
So I've had that unique opportunity to be at the table in different position and roles when it comes to the landscape industry. So I feel like I'm pretty well rounded
Yeah.
on what questions to ask, what things to look for, and lessons learned, as things progress. So yeah, I would be part of helping select landscape companies to install and maintain the sites.
Okay.
And yeah, and we at Amazon we had about three horticulturalists on the client side, and then we also had vendor partner horticulturalists doing other facets of of the site itself.
Okay. Well, and so and now you're with Monarch Landscape Company. So, and do you want to describe your role? Because I think it was longer than I said. Project manager for sustainability, but there was some more stuff that I left off.
yeah. So my title is regional project manager. Is for sustainability as well as for nature experiences. So it's kind of like again what I've been kind of talking in the beginning about connecting people to nature in a built environment, which is a landscape itself. So my role is to kind of take my knowledge, experience that I have, and bring it to the Monarch clients, and have understand the needs and goals that the clients have, and translate it to creating like a vision for a high performing, self-sustaining landscape. That's um, healthy, sustainable, and also delivers a significant value to the end user. And the end user could be multiple folks, like again, community employees, etc. So I kind of encompass all that and try to enhance that landscape experience using some of my tools and passions of like biophilia, sustainability, biophilic design, biodiversity, um, you know, just just all those encompasses of healthy, sustainable landscape in a commercial environment. Um, so again, I firmly believe like that the synergy of a thoughtful placemaking and sustainability can develop into a beautiful, functional environment landscape space, for everyone to enjoy. That's kind of my philosophy on that.
And is this a new type of role at Monarch, or is this something that is newly being looked at for
Yeah, and
commercial landscaping?
yeah, correct. Yeah. So yeah, my role is new and it's unique. You know, commercial landscapes companies, I think, for the most part, historically, they've dabbled in some sustainable practices. But at Monarch, the great thing about Monarch and one of the main reasons I joined Monarch was because of the forward thinking um, folks in leadership that see sustainable landscapes as something that should continue to evolve, be
Hmm.
integrated into our industry, landscape industry. Um, and we want to be on the forefront of it and be the subject matter experts when it comes to that for our clients. And so it's one of those things that I think Monarch felt like it was time to embrace something like this, and I'm super excited and for the opportunity that they're giving me to
Yeah,
to kind of to kind of lead it a little bit and
blaze
create
that
it.
trail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and kind of do that, and so it's super fun and exciting for me.
that's great. Well, and it's great to see, a large company like Monarch, family of companies, take that step. And I think I may have talked to you when we first met about I did an interview with a landscape architect firm in California that they actually mentioned that they were designing and constructing, commercial sites, but they were having trouble finding maintenance companies that would maintain them differently than their norm, so and that I think that interview was probably a year or two ago. So, you know, there was already the need for that. It sounds like Monarch are responding to that. So hopefully, um, you know, you'll see the difference that you can make. And I mean, I can see that, maybe landscape architects and construction companies are already asking for sustainable ways to maintain their properties. But I think it's different to educate the clients. Like you said, you're
Yeah,
client facing, um, and clients may not even realize that there are options on how to do things differently. Um, I mean, what are you finding since you've been in the role with the clients? How receptive are they to thinking about biophilia, biodiversity, different ways of working for landscaping?
yeah, and you're absolutely right. A big portion of this is the educational part of it, and it's educating the clients on what the possibilities are, what the opportunities are, and what the end result can be. I think for Monarch, for our company, we one thing that also I felt really excited about was Monarch has a big capacities and resources that we can use within. We have a construction install team, we have a
Hmm.
tree arbor division, we have a maintenance division, we have an irrigation. So we have all these pieces to the company that then we can kind of start creating almost tactical goals for the client and trying to achieve it, meaning irrigation wise, how can we help them install if it's a new build or something or new design? How do we help them install the right clocks with the right irrigation and water saving
Yeah.
intents? When it comes to installing soil, how do we make sure that we're soil testing and making sure it's not contaminated and it's healthy and it's
Hmm.
the right pH level? And all these divisions, are trees, making sure they're inspecting the trees before they're installed and they don't have any disease or fungal or an invasive weeds that come in the root ball. And so there's so many things to it, but
Hmm.
the client's not going to understand so much of that because they're just like saying, okay, we want a beautiful landscape. We're working with the landscape architect. What can you guys do with that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I've been seeing more and more that once we get in front of the client and talk to them about the opportunity they have to not just on the short term of just installing a landscape, but on the long term of installing a sustainable, lush, beautiful landscape that's going to even save them money in the long run because
Mm-hmm.
it's a healthy landscape. Once they start hearing about, um, you know, long term, save money, still beautiful, all these keywords. So again, talking about the effects of all that together, that you are not just creating something just for the footprint of the property, but also the external portion of it, meaning
Mm-hmm.
everyone else that interacts possibly with this property being a commercial property. Um, so we've been getting some really great traction, and a lot of our clients that have their own sustainability goals and initiatives, they're feeling very at ease with us because we understand what their goals are, their needs, and we become that extra resource to help them hit that goal.
Yeah.
And I think they are very excited about that, and we're excited to provide that service to them.
That is great. And I think, when you talk about having all the facets of the company, being a full service company, it means that you can make more of an impact if you're involved with the design up front. But I guess even if you are only doing the maintenance part of it, from an upsell of the enhancements, you can really work a lot of improvements just on enhancements as well in those sites. Um,
Yeah, correct. Yeah, definitely. I mean, um, you know, sometimes there's other companies that install the landscape, and then there's another company that does the maintenance. And one of the things I always feel that there's sometimes these little spaces in between that aren't filled in, and that part is like almost like part of it is the communication, and the other part is the expectation. So landscape architect designs the landscape, in construction landscape company installs the landscape, and then that other piece, the final piece, is the who's going to maintain the landscape. But
mhm,
sometimes there's not enough information between the landscape architect to the construction company to then make its way to the maintenance company, especially if they're all different. One of the great
yeah.
things, right, if you get to install landscape, and then the maintenance division takes over, it's a very seamless communication transition.
Mhm,
The goals are all kind of aligned. But sometimes when you have that, we're doing we're about to do a maintenance on a property that we didn't install. That's when something like myself or some other team members come in and talk about, okay, so let's do an evaluation of the property. Let's see what it needs, what it's
mhm,
doing, what's doing well, what it needs, and what are any challenges that are happening on the site. And that's how we kind of break it out and kind of customize like tactics and initiatives for our customers and clients. And with that, we always try to then encompass creating, just sustainability landscape initiatives and goals, and create some of these things that sometimes clients don't even know that they can do, and they have the option to do
mhm.
within their landscape maintenance in general. So
What are
that's
some
that's where we strive.
examples of what suggestions that you've made to clients? Sorry to put you on the spot, but are there things that you've gone, well, what about this? And the clients are really surprised about. Do you have any examples of that?
Yeah, I mean, just a few examples. One thing with our climate change happening, um, you know, I think one of the things that we're trying to do too, and I partner up with different uh, horticulturalists that I have in my network, from botanical gardens to university professors and stuff, that we talk about, with this climate change, some of these landscape palettes that we have, some of them aren't surviving. Even the natives
Yeah.
are struggling and not surviving in our areas, in our regions. And so what we're trying to do too is, and I talk to the clients that they're surprised about, is you know, we have we incorporate native plantings, but we also kind of put in climate adaptable type of landscape strategies, meaning we use plants also that may not be native to the exact area we're in, but they're native to an area that's not as, a couple hundred miles away, let's say, but can still do okay in our climate because of the change. Because now in the future, I feel that, and some other folks feel that, our natives are going to start turning, there'll be different natives now that were not initially natives in the area that are going to
Hmm.
become the natives. And it's almost going to be like a hybrid type of landscape with true natives versus almost like a climate adaptable plant. And so those are some of the things that we talk with our customers, because again, it's thinking about the future of the landscape, not just
Yeah.
today, but
Yeah.
how it's going to sustain itself in the future. So they get really excited about that because they had no clue about that's a possibility, or what that can be. Irrigation's another big one that a lot of clients don't know, that with these new smart clocks and the way we can track things in real time, and the weather stations, and putting, using nozzles that can save 30% of water, just changing the nozzle. So it's not like we have to redo the whole
Don't have
system.
to dig it up and yeah,
Yeah, they
it's
don't.
low cost
They're surprised. Like,
improvements.
wait a minute, you can do improvements on the existing system? Yes, of course, we can do this X, Y, and Z, and
30% is huge too,
yeah,
of water
yeah, and
savings, especially.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And even, we kind of dive into certain things with certain clients that are interested in, carbon sequestration data and how we can do that, and landscape, design intent, and what the vision versus the intent was, ecological habitats, and how we can start restoring them or creating new ones. And so
Hmm.
I think a lot of our clients get pride that these things can happen on their landscape.
Yeah. 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 I think you brought up a really good point about things are changing. And it was only, wasn't it last year that the hardiness zone maps changed, and you're like,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
whoa, I didn't know they, you know, it's our climate is changing enough to update, the hardiness zone map. And
Yes.
and that just goes to show, and I mean, I think it was 10 years since they updated it last. But things are changing, and that is the difference when you're dealing with living plants. And even
Yeah.
it even affects, the climate affects the hardscaping too, and the amount of rainfall. I mean, we've been seeing this all over the world over the past few years, that rainfall changes affecting, I mean, especially on the West Coast. I think it's been the most noticeable, huh? Um,
Yeah.
and and there's also, so you're talking about natives and semi-natives. I know that the plant breeding community are also doing a lot more to look at native plants and making them adaptable, as in more drought resistant, taking those plants and just tweaking the genetics a little bit to make them better at what they do. So there's so much innovation going on in our industry at the same time as we're seeing all these changes. I think it's a really exciting time to be thinking of, you know, nature experiences and sustainability, and for the commercial side of, the business to be looking at that is really powerful. Because I think there's usually more of a budget there, and than maybe in residential, and it's usually bigger sites. I also think another thing that you brought out is important, is that if you design them well and using native plants or semi-native plants, it can actually save in recurring maintenance costs. Um, but you do have to train your staff a bit differently, don't you, to handle native plants versus ornamentals, or what do you think about that? Because I'm experimenting with some native plants and I've seen them jump my driveway. Not actively jump, but I'm like, oh, I didn't plant that there, so they do move around a bit more. Um, what what tips can you or what have you seen from dealing with the Monarch cruise and how to maintain these sites because it is slightly different, isn't it?
It is. It is. I think again, it comes back to kind of doing a customized, tactical type of maintenance guideline in a way.
Okay.
And so um, that I think that's what also makes us a bit different is that we look at sites as individual sites and not just putting them all together as, hey, they're just landscape sites and that's it. And we're just going to do the basics and call it a day. I think what we do is try to customize it. So you're right. So there's some sites that'll have more natives, and it also comes with the intent that the client wants, and part of that is the education as well. So if you want natives,
Okay.
what we have to do is almost, for instance, we don't want to shear, these plants. We don't want to make them into shapes. We don't want to prune them at the wrong time, stress them out, and all that. So then it's also the educational portion, and then having our crews also know how to take care of a certain property the way it is, um, and that's I think one of the things we do is that we try to encompass like if there are some type of strategies that some properties need, we make sure that our crews know and are trained on how to do it and do it well, and
Mm.
also kind of have fun because you'll be surprised on um, you know people in the landscape and the crews and managers, everything, they all get kind of excited about learning something to do in a new way, right? Because if you think about it, I myself have, I've been in the landscape industry more than 25 years, and I started on the lawnmower and weed whacking and doing all the things that you start off doing on the ground level of things.
Yeah.
And if you're doing something like that for a long time and just doing the same thing, it kind of gets a little monotonous, right? Kind of gets the
Yeah.
same. You don't feel like you're making any type of change or difference in a way that you do things. But once you start kind of, you know, training the crews and telling them certain things of, hey, this is how you do this, this is how you take care of this property, they love it because it's something new for them and they learn and they get educated and then they pass that information along and that knowledge to other crews. And that's the fun part too, is trying to change and train the landscape industry in a way that becomes fun, and something new
That's
to do.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'm really glad to hear that that's the case because I think, yeah, doing something the same way for 20 years could get very monotonous.
Yes.
Um, so it sounds like you have the right, the crews have the right attitude to be receptive to what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic, you know, steps in the right direction. Where do you see this going? What's your expectation? Like in a year or two from now, what are you going to go, if I achieve this, I'll feel like I've done an excellent job in your role. What do you think?
Yeah, I have big goals and kind of, smaller goals, right? So, um, coming from Amazon, and one thing, some of the things I learned working there, it's kind of like the work backwards theory. Um, so it's almost I focused first on what's the end result I would like to see, within what we're doing with sustainability, and then work backwards from there to where it starts. Um, so what I see, and hopefully that I get to contribute in, is our company continuing to create these sustainable landscapes, and then also, like, you know while doing that, it's almost creating the future of landscapes and what they should be, and how they should present themselves, and what that interaction with people is going to look like. And again, the biggest goal I have, and a personal goal within our company, is um, to make sure that people are really enjoying the landscapes that we take care of or install, or whatever the case is, in general, and get to experience a lush, beautiful green space that they can kind of enjoy and use, especially in urban environment, where that's that's hard to find sometimes.
Hmm.
And the other piece to that is, these commercial landscapes, um, I feel like, are just these great green space hubs for nature and natural habitats. And, most of these areas are kind of, a lot of them are surrounded on the outskirts with nature itself, or some more vast, a little bit more land. But the problem is when we have our insect population come into the urban environment where they can live, and we need to provide food sources as well. And so that excites me in a way that we're contributing to the ecosystem within an urban environment that, again, supports native, pollinators and organisms, as well as us as people that need that connection. And you'll be surprised how much you need that connection, especially in an urban environment where things are moving fast, and there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of visuals, and there's so much going on, that when you have a place that you can sit and rest and kind of decompress a little, and that can just be a really pretty landscape, it makes a huge difference.
I do, I lived in Scotland for 20 years and came back to the US, and I'm still surprised all the time that people don't walk outside more. Um, I mean, I'd imagine in Seattle, it's more often than in South Louisiana, but do you think, by doubling the amount of people at your commercial sites that go outside, do you think that's a reasonable goal to have, encouraging people to come outside, maybe doubling or tripling the amount of people that interact with nature?
Oh,
I would think that
definitely.
would be a great goal to have. And if you could measure that somehow, it'd be really powerful, because I think you're right with the anxiety, is something that being out of touch with nature can you can experience. And so yeah, I think that, yeah, it's a great
Yeah,
goal to have to, yeah, progress the commercial spaces to have more interaction. I think I've even heard the term grounding, where you have to touch the ground more, like we need to be more in touch with the earth. And it's funny
yeah,
that you realize that it sounds like a very young age. I think it's taken me a lot longer to realize it, but I do miss it when I'm not outside. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, no, definitely. And like you said, exactly that. Like, especially some of our clients that have employees that go to work. When they go to work, we want to make sure that we're creating um, kind of a work balance at work, that they want to go to work, and but also have those times that they can kind of disconnect a little bit, and that's what they can do in a natural landscape, built environment. And that's some of the things that we try to um, contribute and innovate with our clients, is creating these spaces. um, I call them either like little neighborhoods or plots or habitats for
Mm.
people, not just for nature,
Yeah, yeah,
but
not
because
just for
we're Yeah, because we're creating
ecosystem.
the nature part already automatically as we create these landscapes. But for the people to experience these different areas, and for instance, like if a manager wants to have a meeting with an employee, how fun would it be to walk through a natural nature path to have that walk and talk meeting instead of an office that's all painted
Yes,
white. You're kind of closed in. You're both sitting in a chair, maybe with a desk, and talking about things. That kind of gives a little bit, always a little bit of a stress environment. But if you were to walk with a manager and the employee walking together and talking about things and whatever it is,
breathing fresh air. Well,
breathe fresh air and kind of it's a more relaxed meeting that can happen versus one being inside of a room, let's say.
totally agree. Oh, I love that. Outdoor meeting rooms, the newest trend. I love
Right.
it.
Definitely.
Let's do it. And trampolines. No, no, we don't have to have the trampolines.
Uh,
Oh,
that would be
awesome.
fun.
Well, and I mentioned at the beginning, but you're also going to be contributing an article to our next issue and some future issues. So
Yeah.
we're looking forward to hearing more from you and, how you're developing in your role and what you see that the industry needs. So excited to work with you on this journey and yeah, love the feedback. So looking forward to that in our next summer issue, everyone. So look out for Fabian Sanin in our next issue. Um, if people want to reach out to you and discuss anything, how can they get in touch with you, Fabian?
They can get in touch with me through my LinkedIn page, or they can also email me. And my email would be my first name, Fabian.Sanin at monarchlandscape.com.
And we can put that in the show notes and based in Seattle. And you'll be able to also see Fabian's details in our next issue when the article comes out. So looking forward to working with you more. And you posted, or I guess Monarch posted some great videos online for, what was it? It was International Biodiversity Day, was it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. I was like, did I remember that right?
Yes, yep, exactly.
So I'll put a link to that in the write-up in the show notes as well, because that was a great video. So you're doing quite a lot at Monarch, and yeah, looking forward to seeing how things progress, and yeah, we'll maybe do a follow-up podcast later in the year too. So
That sounds
awesome.
great. No, thank you for the opportunity, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And you're so passionate about the industry as well. So yeah, it's so much fun to talk with passionate people like yourself. So it's my pleasure.
Awesome, awesome. Well, and hopefully we'll build a Sync Live event on the West Coast sometime soon too. So
Yes,
that's in the works. So we'll talk about that another time. But great to see you, Fabian, and look forward to chatting to you another time.
sounds good. Thank you, Angelique. Have a great day.